Hi there, welcome to This Here Nature. Brought to you by Pyran. Really good episode coming up. It's all about compost. Anyways, stay tuned. It's going to be really fun. So much fun. There's going to be a lot of decomposition. There's going to be a lot of really cool techniques that can help you and your family. Maybe get one of these piles going in your backyard, if you have the space. So, let's jump right in. We're good?
Yes.
So a really easy way you can compost at home is you can just put all your vegetable scraps in a bowl. You find some sort of bucket. As you can see here, we got some eggshells in there. Those are compostable. Just make sure you remove the little stickers because these aren't compostable. These are made out of plastic.
No to plastic!
You can pop these right in the trash. You know, by composting all of this will essentially get turned into soil and won't go into the garbage. So you're reducing waste there. Oh yeah! If you find that you don't really have the space outside and you think the flies might begin to accumulate, you can also put your compost in a bag and freeze it. It'll keep it from rotting. So, you know, if you can't keep your compost in your house because it attracts too many flies, one thing we like to do is we have a bucket outside and we just throw our compost in there once it gets a little full. As you can see, the flies are accumulating. Yep, just empty it out whenever it gets full. Or before it starts attracting flies. Pretty much if you empty it out daily, you won't have a problem with flies.
Look, got everything in there. Ooh, got that sticker. Take it off.
No to plastic!
Got avocado peels, eggshells, kale stems, plum pits, tomato cores. All compostable.
A lot of people don't know you shouldn't throw meat, dairy, or eggs into home composters. They're better suited for industrial composters that can get up to the temperatures to kill off any potential pathogens such as E. coli. Composting animal products can also produce foul odors as well as attract vermin and pests, with the exception being eggshells, as they can provide a valuable source of calcium for your compost. Time to mix it up.
This here is a big old pile of recycled sawdust blocks that were inoculated with oyster mushrooms. And this right here is a compost roller.
Tumbler and mixer.
Tossed in a bunch of compost
Greens.
earlier today. As you can see, the flies are accumulating. Got some fava greens, a bunch of other things in there. Just vegetable scraps. Part of any good compost mixing recipe is you want 50% carbon, which will be provided by this here, the carbon-rich sawdust.
If you don't have sawdust, that's okay. You can use other materials like straw.
Hey!
Dried leaves. You can even put charcoal from your wood fires into your compost. Just don't use charcoal briquettes because those have nasty chemicals you don't want in there. Yuck!
And 50% nitrogen, which will be provided by this here, vegetable scraps. Pour those in there and mix them right up and let nature do its work.
I couldn't feel myself doing this, so I found this example. As the compost turns, it aerates, it fills with air, it gets fluffy with oxygen.
And this is it after it getting turned a couple times. So you can see the sawdust is incorporated, some of the decomposed vegetable matter, along with some of the fresh vegetable matter. We're just going to close it up, and we're going to turn it once every couple days. The turning process will add oxygen to the mixture. Sometimes if it's too dry, maybe we'll add some water. And that'll keep the biology active and kickstart the decomposition process. Hopefully in a couple months, maybe in a couple weeks, we'll end up with some good old quality compost.
To look at decomposition, let's look at the elements involved. First off, element oxygen, which we mostly find in the form of O2. Two oxygen atoms doubly bonded with a covalent bond, meaning that they share 2 electrons. Most living things use O2 to be able to breathe, respirate, or be able to create energy, with the exception of anaerobic bacteria, which can live without oxygen.
We don't need that.
And then there's carbon, which composes all living life forms. Plants use carbon to build biomass through photosynthesis, by which they use the energy of the sun and extract carbon in the form of CO2 from the atmosphere, the very same CO2 that we breathe out. The plants metabolize the carbon dioxide into sugars and release water and oxygen. Next up, we have nitrogen, which is essential for living things to produce proteins, amino acids, and DNA. Nitrogen in the form of N2, or 2 nitrogen atoms covalently bonded by 3 electrons. This composes over 70% of the atmosphere. But if it's so abundant, Where is it, and why can't we absorb it directly from the air? This is because the triple bonded structure of N2 is the second strongest two-atom or diatomic bond that exists, making it incredibly difficult for organisms to break apart. This brings us to the nitrogen cycle, and the way different organisms work together to pull nitrogen from the atmosphere, and in this case, how decomposers break apart living matter and turn it into bioavailable nitrogen for plants to use. Decomposition is mostly taken on by the FBI, fungi, bacteria, and invertebrates. The FBI work together to break down the nitrogen and carbon mixture, readily consuming oxygen to turn these into energy. And temperatures can begin to reach up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit as the microbes digest all the goodies contained within the compost. Decomposers are pretty important, considering that without them, things wouldn't rot. So we'd pretty much just have a ton of vegetable waste left around, not really doing anything besides just sitting there. It's thanks to decomposers that organic matter such as food scraps can be broken down and recycled back into the soil. This can't happen, however, if the food scraps are thrown into a space where they can't get oxygen, such as a trash bag. Without oxygen, the anaerobic bacteria, the ones that don't need oxygen, as well as yeast, which are a type of microscopic fungi. These organisms take over and begin to digest the food matter through fermentation, a process by which microorganisms break down nutrients, as well as methanogenesis, a process that produces methane. The same stuff in cow farts. The same stuff that contributes to global warming. These two anaerobic digestion processes can produce valuable chemicals that we use in our everyday lives. Fermentation alone is responsible for helpful byproducts such as vinegar, alcohol aka ethanol used in gasoline, and spirits. They'll pretty much go to waste if produced by food scraps that end up in the landfill. Turns out food waste is actually a pretty big issue in the United States. According to the USDA, 30 to 40% of all food produced goes to waste, which is unfortunate because there's thousands upon thousands of hours that farm workers, even factory line workers, have put into getting that food to people's tables. According to the EPA, in 2017, food waste accounted for just over 15% of all the waste generated in the country. This totaled out to a whopping 40,670,000 tons of food waste. There's around 2,000 pounds in a ton, so that's about 81,340,000,000 pounds of food waste. To understand these numbers, let's put them into perspective. A blue whale weighs about 375,000 pounds. 3 whales weigh a little over 1,000,000 pounds. It would take 8,100 groups of 3 blue whales to get together on some sort of giant scale made for this purpose. There'd be a total of about 24,300 whales at this party, and they would weigh in about the same as the 81 billion pounds of food waste we produce in the United States, of which only 6% was recycled into compost.
That's not right.
Let's start to look at some of the reasons for why this is happening. First off, a lot of people just are kind of ignorant about it. They don't know. That's in spite of humans farming and therefore making compost for over 10,000 years. Some people may lack the space, even the facilities to compost. That's why it's always good to check with your city or local community programs to see if there's a composting program available. In some parts of the country, there's even curbside compost pickup. Let's look at some of the benefits of composting. It provides you with fresh, natural, and bioactive fertilizer that you can use to grow plants and harvest vegetables from. Composting takes food scraps out of the trash cycle and makes the nutrients bioavailable for bacteria and other microorganisms to digest. The process of adding compost to the soil doesn't just help plants, it also helps the soil, as the beneficial microorganism-rich mixture of compost inoculates the soil and thereby allows us to have a more diverse ecosystem that can better extract nutrients from its environment. Comprehensive compost infrastructure can also create jobs, ranging from heavy machinery operation, compost transport and pickup, as well as just simple shoveling. That's because once you get going with big piles of compost, there can be a variety of applications and uses for this highly desirable substance. For example, it can be used to make soil and fertilizer for young plants and trees. It can be funneled into the agricultural sector to be used in organic farming, as well as sold to the public for use in backyard gardens. As you can tell, I'm outside right now and the light's a little red. It's related to the smoke in the air and the recent fires that passed through this area. The reason I mention fires is because compost can actually be used as a way to revitalize high fire damage areas by introducing nutrients that were essentially burned off in the fire. It can make it easier for plants to transition and begin to repopulate areas of the forest that are essentially lacking plants right now. So just know, composting is great.
Everyone should compost.
Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more educational videos to come. See you next time.